So, back in November of 2024, I looked at the second volume of the Mimosa Confessions, a light novel series revolving around Ushio, a boy who transitions to a girl, and her experiences and struggle that comes with it. How does her family react? How does the school react? How do her classmates react? And how does her childhood friend Sakuma react? And how does he feel towards her transition? The Mimosa Confessions, written by Mei Hachimaku and illustrated by Kuka, is a very amazing coming-of-age story that's beautifully targeted towards those who are transgender, or part of LGBTQ, or part of any minority, or trying to be yourself, if you know what I mean. Within the course of 3 volumes that have been released so far, Hachimaku has created a very engaging story that's one part romance, one part commentary on their gender identity, bigotry, and prejudice, along with the many other issues that are ingrained within us. But I think a big important question that the series proposes overall is how people react to change. Who goes with it? Who goes against it? Who's the one causing the change? One thing the series has done incredibly well is provide nuance and depth within each of the characters with their own views. We have characters who are all for change, such as Sera, who's, someone who doesn't really uphold himself to societal standards, such as just having one partner. And on the flip side, you have characters like Nishizono, who despise aspects such as, polygamy and being transgender, that she's willing to go out of her way to attempt to force back the changes or dismiss them either verbally or, being rid of them physically, beating the shit out of them. And within that line, you have characters who bridge on different sides as the story starts and continues, and we see how certain events in the story begin to change the characters. One of the most important characters on this line is Sakuma, Ushio's childhood friend, as he learns how to see Ushio as a girl, and what it means for him. As he starts seeing her as one, he begins to have romantic feelings for her, sort of, as he's attracted to girls, and he has to sort of visualize the bridge between gender and sex, because, I see Ushio as a girl, but she was born a boy. Does that mean I'm gay? Does that mean I'm being gay? But I'm pretty sure I just like girls, and Ushio wants to be perceived as a girl, but so does it mean I'm not? These kinds of questions and theoreticals are spread throughout the entire Mimosa Confessions series, and time is spent on obvious questions like this. Volume 1 specifically is chock full of these answers revolving around the bathroom Ushio uses, how she dresses, and the types of comments she receives, such as being told, stop the bit. The book isn't afraid of addressing these topics and the views that people have, dedicating not only sections, but entire chapters and, practically volumes dedicated for characters that inhibit these sort of views. Now quickly, just a few disclaimers before we get into this. If you are not someone who rocks with the LGBTQ, rainbow gang, plus, minority, I don't know, anything else, you are probably not gonna enjoy this series. Actually, why are you even watching my channel? This series is very pro-LGBTQ, and even the characters that are against it initially eventually do have their character arcs conclude with either being positive or, I don't care, do whatever the fuck you want. And it's done in a way that's not forced, which I'll get into later in the video. If you come in with an open mind and don't have many ideas on LGBTQ and transgender, then reading this series may help you with understanding it. And even if you don't exactly resonate with it, there's still general topics that anyone can relate to, and that's probably one of the best aspects of the series. Those who personally feel what Ushio feels will feel represented, while those that won't still will feel represented in terms of how it feels to be yourself and being challenged for that. And also a second disclaimer, because this one's a bit more personal. It has been quite a while since I've done a video like this, and a lot of things have changed. This channel is not the same, the way I structure and write my videos has sped up a lot, and I'm not exactly comfortable doing the type of videos I did back then. I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't really fun, recording myself for a couple of hours, mumbling, repeating plot points, and raw dogging it, and then spending an abnormal amount of time, hours and such, trying to edit the video, cut out irrelevant moments, and, sort of keep a good pace while being able to focus on what I'm actually talking about. And now that I've edited 2 videos that have gone over an hour, I can safely say that I'm never doing another unscripted video like those 2 ever again. We're going to be a bit more concise, a bit more short, while still addressing the things I want to talk about this book. This isn't going to be much of a plot summary, but more so my thoughts on it and how the series is continuing to surprise me in amazing ways. My first read through was while I was on the train, and my second read was before recording, so it's still fresh in my mind. Quick recap though for those who haven't caught up or need a refresher. We got the main trio, Sakuma, Ushio, and Natsuki. There used to be a whole love triangle between them, but sort of died down mostly, as it's mostly now Sakuma and Ushio, who are the best pair. I mean, what? We have characters like Sera and Nishizono, who I talked about earlier, representing different extremist sides when it comes to certain beliefs. There was a bit of an arc with Sakuma in the first volume, as he had trouble having an open mind when it came to certain beliefs, and it was overall commentary on the inconsistent nature of our beliefs and what we let slide. Ushio wanted to be a girl? Yeah, it's all good. Sera wanted more than one partner? Oh, hell nah, get that shit gone! And Sakuma has to deal with realizing that he's a little bigoted, and it allows for a lot more growth for him. And the series does a good job at, handling these topics, because it isn't like Sakuma does a 180 and completely supports Sera with having multiple partners. No, he still does not like Sera, and spoiler alert, he hates that fucker for the entire series. But regarding his beliefs, there isn't really a valid reason for him to get upset at that specific point with Sera. Back in volume 1, he would literally openly judge Sera for it and, start criticizing and stuff, but over the course of volume 1, he sort of learns what the fuck am I doing, man? I really, bro. He doesn't really agree or is down with the concepts of polygamy and such, but his actions speak on his internal thoughts that Sera rightfully calls him out for. There's a comparison made in the book between Nishizono and how she feels towards Ushio's transition and openly expressing her hatred for it, and Sakuma as he does the same towards Sera. Over the course of Volume 2 and Volume 3, the reactions towards Ushio's transition sort of dies down as the series progresses, no one really cares, and coming from Volume 2, people have seen Ushio's true side as she makes herself more well known, such as being Juliet in the Romeo and Juliet play. And last time we left off, the play just ended, Sakuma, Ushio, Natsuki are all together, Nishizono still hates Ushio, and Sera's off doing whatever the fuck he's doing. I stated it in my Volume 2 review, but Volume 2 is sort of like a transition story, just to flesh out certain character traits, but nothing really important happens. Volume 3 though? This is a really good volume, and you know one of the best parts about reading a good series? It's knowing when to end. For those unaware, the Mimosa Confessions is only 5 volumes, and after finishing the 3rd one, I have so much faith for the 4th and 5th volume in terms of content and the ideas they introduce. Never does Hachimoku reintroduce the same exact concepts over and over. There's always a slight alteration that's done to bring focus onto a certain character, such as Nishizono. But quick plot synopsis, Ushio is challenged by our former track team member Noi in a race to see who's the fastest. Okay, but for real, it's been established in Volume 1 that Noi was not very happy with Ushio transitioning, mostly because right when she did, she quit the track team and she was kind of like the goat in running, so they lost a really important member. Noi is incredibly desperate to get Ushio back, with the race determining 2 things. If Ushio wins, Noi will apologize and let things go, and if Noi wins, then Ushio joins the track team again. While we have that subplot to start, we have a more interesting one revolving around Nishizono. I've already established Nishizono isn't really down with Ushio's transition, but because of her repeated actions towards Ushio, she's gotten a bit of a bad rep. She verbally and emotionally abused Ushio, got suspended because of it, and seems to think the world is out to get her. And there is someone out to get her, and it's Sera, who wants to dissect Nishizono per se. Firstly, I want to give a ton of praise for just pairing Nishizono and Sera together as a concept. 2 people who are completely opposite in terms of their beliefs and personality being mixed together is going to cause chaos. And chaos does in fact ensue. It starts off small, with Sera befriending Nishizono's former friends and purposely leaving her out to isolate her. He then begins to mess with her, questioning her beliefs and why she feels that way, overanalyzing her, and addressing the fact that because of her hateful attitude, no one really likes her. After the events of the previous volumes where Nishizono consistently lashed out against Ushio, a lot of the classmates were suddenly being like, hey yo, she good or what? It's been like 5 months, dude. Like, you're still on this? And seeing people slowly accept Ushio over the course of the series makes Nishizono the odd one out, as she refuses to engage with people. Why the fuck should I talk to people who, support that freak? In the story, the character is painted as a very, self-inflicted scenario where she begins to purposely isolate herself, and even those that try to approach her, either be, the friends that she still has, she pushes away. Sera is hell-bent on instigating though, because that's his nature. He instigates people. He tests people on their beliefs, and it's by instigating Nishizono that he eventually gets beaten up by her. But he's soon able to expose that Nishizono had a crush on Ushio, which is partially the reason why she's pissed off at Ushio for transitioning. This starts a manhunt around the only friend circle she has, investigating them and basically accusing them of everything, leaving her to be isolated even more as she can't even trust the ones around her. Nishizono at this point is a character that is very confusing in her nature. She hates everything, she hates everyone around her, and she seems to be spiraling down to a state where she's going to be all alone. Now, does she want to be alone? Is it her fault? Is it everyone else's fault for her being alone? The volume does a really good job at showcasing the different viewpoints through the perspective changes. Now, this is a new thing, FYI. The first volume mainly focused on Sakuma's perspective. The second volume also focused on Sakuma, but at the end it shifted over to Natsuki. Here though, in the 3rd volume, we now have multiple perspectives. We switch to Sakuma, we switch to a narrator, we switch to other characters, we switch to Nishizono herself, in order to clarify how she sees herself and how others see her. We get clarity on Nishizono's thoughts, someone who tries to avoid confronting any discomfort she has as she tries to move on and brush aside it. Smacking Ushio for Firmo? Whatever, just give me the punishment, let's move on. It's like she's running away without thinking because there's no point in it. The friends she once had are gone, but she doesn't care. She doesn't care enough to reforge or try to reconnect back with them. In fact, the only friends she has are the ones that are still willing to look at the good in her, as some have very personal reasons for being friends with her. When Sera implies that someone snitched that she liked Ushio, she completely turns on her friends, thinking that the wool is out for her, when her friends are just entirely confused. It gets to a point that Nishizono lashes out at Marine, one of her friends, accidentally pushing her and having her fall down some stairs and being sent to the hospital. And even after this, she still has the mindset of shooting out an apology and moving on, not even wanting to directly confront it. But then Marine suddenly apologizes, saying it was an accident and her fault entirely and not Nishizono's, which cracks something in her. Even after everything she's done, whether it be to serve her pride, her beliefs, she still has someone be her friend, to lie to save her ass, to lie to the teachers and all the staff to make sure she doesn't get expelled or anything of the sorts. Like, Does she even deserve it? And what makes it worse is that Sera soon reveals that no one actually snitched. He just made that shit up and he just so happened to be right. So Nishizono practically went insane for nothing, leaving her empty and alone. Everyone at school, including her classmates, no one understood her or even believed that she made an accident pushing Marine. They all think it was on purpose because she's just that evil. Only Sera believes her, and that's because he actually studied her inside and out. No one bothered to understand her, nor cared to. She starts thinking about how much she fucked up, how she'll get right next time. Or, maybe she's forced to suffer her consequences now with no escape. She realized there's no more running this time, so she proceeds to jump Sera and beat the shit out of him. Anyway, after that whole ordeal, Nishizono is placed on community service, and at her lowest, she finally apologized to many of the characters she's affected in the series. She is actually at her lowest, by the way. She has completely given up mentally and physically. Her reputation's gone. She's in a full reflection of why she did what she did, asserting her beliefs, and how tired she's getting, being on the offensive side all the time. And how it's come to bite her in the ass when everyone started accusing her of, pushing person off stairs. She apologizes to Marine for always being on her side even when she sent her to the hospital. She apologizes to Natsuki for investigating her. She apologized to Sakuma, and she even apologized to Ushio for constantly abusing the shit out of her. Ushio, unsurprisingly, does not forgive Nishizono as the actions she committed were way too harsh, but she simply states that as long as Nishizono stays out of her business, she's free to do whatever she wants. It's a conclusion that isn't exactly satisfying, but realistic. Nishizono is given a wake-up call, and it isn't like she suddenly supports Ushio or something. In fact, Ushio is just a minor point in her character arc. She's just someone Nishizono affected because of her mindset. It isn't given a grand moment, just 2 simple sentences of apologies and it's over and done with. Nishizono is given some redemption by doing community service with her friends to reforge her friendship, and it's overall a very nice conclusion to her arc, finally choosing to stay and fix what's been broken, rather than running away and doing guerrilla warfare tactics. A big question I had when reading this volume initially was how it was going to deal with Nishizono in regards to her transphobia towards Ushio. Was it going to end up with her being open-minded, maybe accepting her? But this conclusion is in character for her. She doesn't care, and it wasn't in her space to treat Ushio as she did, so she's sorry for that. It ends off like that. No more, no less. The focus wasn't even on her hatred for Ushio. It was just a side effect of her pride and willingness to abandon everything. So just her character as a whole. Pretty anticlimactic, but I don't know, man. Well, anyway, let's switch to Ushio and her subplot, as it shows more of her character and how transitioning affects other people's views on you. Her arc revolves around her race of Noi, as she trains for the race in order for her pride, but also shut Noi down once and for all. A big focus is put on the training Ushio does that helps her bond with Sakuma, but I'll be talking about them later. During the race, we actually get to switch perspectives to Noi and how he interpreted Ushio transitioning. Noi had a ton of respect for Ushio, for being his partner in track, as they both ran together. And when Ushio first came out, he had a hard time accepting it, as it seemed he was losing the version of Ushio that was in his head. With the events that happened in both Volume 1 and 2, Ushio's reputation and acceptance begins growing at a rate that overcrowds Noi's thoughts. It wasn't even the main fact that Ushio was a girl now. It's that all the traits he associated Ushio with, such as track and running, were completely gone in his mind. This race was a test to erase the old Ushio, to convince himself that this new Ushio was an entirely different person, not the one he used to know. Unfortunately for Noi, Ushio was still Ushio. Just because she came on and said she wanted to be a girl didn't mean all of her skills and hobbies suddenly popped like a balloon. She was still the same, meaning she was still fast, and she beats Noi almost instantly. Ushio was always this way. Just because she chose to open up a little bit more about herself doesn't mean everything around her crumbled. It just did in Noi's mind. Most of the focus after the erase is put on Noi instead of Ushio, as Ushio begins to criticize Noi for being slower and being what Noi thought of Ushio, someone who isn't what they used to be. This arc doesn't have much presence compared to Nishizono's, as that takes up most of the main part of the volume, but I still really love it though. It answers questions regarding gender identity and what it means to transition to the way you want. What changes? What doesn't change? People do not know you, and they will place any beliefs onto you thinking they know better. Ushio quitting the track team? Oh, that must mean you hate track, you hate running. I guess that whole part was a fucking lie then. No, Ushio straight up says, I love track, I love running. I just didn't want to be a part of the track team. I didn't want to be perceived as a boy. And you see how those 2 points are similar at first glance, but can be interpreted entirely different? When a drastic change occurs, and this doesn't mean to be like, a transitioning a topic, it can be literally anything, people will have things to say, of course, and thoughts they want to express. But a thing to note is that people don't know you. They don't know what's been lurking in your mind, what's been in your head for your entire life. It's complicated and nuanced in a way that most won't understand, or worse, won't try to understand. You have people that try to understand, you have people that pretend to understand but try to be snarky about to one-up you, and you have those that don't try to. The relationship between Ushio and Noi isn't concluded in the way you think. They just have a mutual understanding of each other and go each other's way. It's bittersweet, but realistic, as there's no reason for Noi to switch up and support Ushio, as his actions even at the start were negative towards it. Now it's neutral. He accepts that Ushio is still Ushio, and how he deals with that is completely up to him, and not something Ushio should be worried about. The case of Noi not accepting Ushio isn't limited to just him, of course. We have Nishizono, but we also have Ushio's own sister that I want to focus on for a little bit. Now this is something that will be focused on Volume 4, which hasn't been released yet, but I do want to mention it as it has some potential. Misao is Ushio's younger sister, and throughout the entirety of the Mimosa Confession series, has denied Ushio's identity. Now the reason she gives is that it's weird, and that stayed consistently true until now, we get some traces of her mind being conflicted. After talking with Sakuma and being told that Ushio's happy, Misao is filled with disgust seeing images of Ushio being herself at school. What makes the relationship more complicated is that Misao used to love Sakuma and Ushio when they were all younger, but right when Ushio came out is when the disgust started. Now for the reason, we aren't sure yet, but the scenario being about family rather than friends makes it more intriguing on how it gets resolved. One thing I love about what the Mimosa Confession series has done is provide nuance and reasoning for why people believe the way they do. You know, like in real life or online, you will get the most bigoted, most hateful statements that you'll receive in your life, and that'll be it. No nuance, just pure unadulterated hate, and a lot of it comes to people with their frontal lobes already grown, so you know, it's probably too late for them. You don't know what made them that way, nor should you really care unless you just care for everyone or there's someone close to you. What this series has done is provide a level of depth into why people sometimes have these views that could be considered bigoted, prejudiced, along other terms. While the series does have a positive view in LGBTQ+, it doesn't stray away from how some people react, and as you can see from the video so far, even the nice conclusions still have a neutral ending where people just part ways. People don't need to accept you for being yourself, and I like that the series shows different ways it can end up. The fact most are interpersonal rather than, you know, online also makes it more nuanced. Ushio is someone trying her best to be herself, and her progression with her transition comes from taking in all sides, those that support, those that don't, and determining if it's worth it to sacrifice many elements of her life, such as her social life, in order to be herself. Pretty nuanced, huh? What is also nuanced is Sakuma, our main character that we've been focusing on for almost 3 volumes now. Now, because of the way the story is structured, he doesn't get nearly as much screen time as he used to because the perspective changes, but he's someone who is slowly concluding his arc. The volume reaffirms that by talking about previous events such as his prejudice against Sera back in Volume 1, and how he learned to express his thoughts in Volume 2. This is a character who has gone through a lot of growth, so it makes sense that he doesn't get as much attention as the others. He got 2 whole books dedicated to it, so I'm not mad that he doesn't get that much attention in this one, and that's not to say he doesn't have yet any, of course, you know. He still has his moments. His talk with Marine, how she essentially faked falling down the stairs to ensure Nishizono would change, his training with Ushio for the race with Noi, he still has a lot of things to do, and he especially has a lot of things to do with Ushio. Now he and Ushio have a ton of bonding moments as they train for the race. Sakuma bicycles while Ushio runs, and they get to learn more about each other, what they're going to do after high school, debating what to do if Ushio wins against Noi, and a whole bunch of romantic tension I have to address. If you watched any of the previous Mimosa Confession videos, you guys should know that Ushio has a major crush on Sakuma. She gets rejected throughout the entire course of the series because Sakuma has conflicting feelings over seeing Ushio as a girl, and if he does, if he doesn't, and he also sort of like Natsuki, so it's really confusing. But he still likes Ushio, so he still likes Ushio as, like, you know, a friend, so he's always there for her, which does not help Ushio in the slightest. He has this girl fucking blushing at almost every goddamn moment, and since we're in his perspective, we know genuinely that he just likes Ushio and wants to be there for her, but romantically, who knows, man, even he's confused. And the most intriguing part about all is how Ushio reacts. Throughout the 3 volumes that we've had, we have not gotten a perspective of Ushio at all. We've had to learn and study Ushio through the lens of others. How Sakuma sees her, how Natsuki sees her, how Noi sees her, how Nishizono sees her. All these perspectives, and we never get to see how she truly feels. We get brief moments we get to see what she sort of feels, but it's left up to interpretation. Most of what we get is Ushio's words to other people describing her thoughts and what she thinks. We learn how she feels about gender when she talks with Sakuma and Natsuki, but everything outside that is unknown to us. There's a very brief plot point where Ushio is pulled out of class by a random boy, and we're left wondering what they exactly talked about. They initially think it's about the race of Noi, but Natsuki and Sakuma are left to wonder. That is until the end of the book. After beating Noi and resolving their issues with Nishizono, Ushio and Sakuma finally discuss what to do to celebrate, with Ushio revealing what she truly wants. A hug. She wants a hug from Sakuma. As they get into a very intimate position, Ushio reveals what happened when she was pulled out of class. That boy? It wasn't about Noi or the race, it was just him wanting to ask her out. It made Ushio realize something. She's attractive. She's gorgeous. She's pretty enough to have someone ask her out. Throughout these past 3 volumes, she's been made fun of, had comments made about her, not be accepted by her classmates. When she originally came out, her popularity sank heavily because she used to be the popular boy. Her confidence was lost, and even though she was happy to have friends that support her and be able to be herself, to anyone, it would kind of fucking hurt being treated that way. But now, she's at a point in her life that she's so pretty she's being asked out by boys, and that's amazing for anyone to hear. And Sakuma knows this. He knows that Ushio's confidence has risen, and he knows that Ushio might finally have the confidence to express what she really feels towards him. In Volume 1, she said she couldn't match up to her real goal regarding her feelings towards Sakuma when faced with Natsuki, but now it's different. Sakuma finally asks why Ushio she has a crush on him. What happened for that to be the case, leading to a very smooth transition into the 4th volume. And would you look at that? We're done with the volume, and this video isn't even long. The video is not that long compared to last time. I think I talked about everything that I want to, at least most of it. Of course, there are some topics I didn't elaborate on, such as Sera, Natsuki, some other minor characters, but now we're good. I think we're good. That's not to say there's nothing worth talking about them, but hey man, things have changed. I'm just glad I was finally able to get Volume 3. Volume 3. Took a couple months, but we finally got here. Yep. Not sure what to do now. I've actually gotten the running because of the most confessions, yeah. When Ushio started doing the whole running thing, got me inspired to do running as myself, so I do running every other day now. Reading Volume 3 got me to that. Crazy, I know.